The notification sound from Trevor's second phone made my blood freeze. I wasn't supposed to know about that phone. I wasn't supposed to be home early from my business trip. And I definitely wasn't supposed to see the message that lit up the screen as it sat on our kitchen counter. Baby, I can't wait for our weekend in Napa. Thank you for buying me that beautiful house. I love you so much. Candace, 2 hearts. My hands shook as I picked up the device. My husband of 5 years had a secret phone. My husband had bought another woman a house. My husband was planning romantic weekends with his ex-girlfriend while I worked 60-hour weeks to support our life together. The phone was unlocked and I couldn't stop myself from scrolling. Months and months of messages. Missing you already, can't wait to hold you, the bed feels empty without you. Pictures of them together at restaurants. I recognized restaurants where Trevor told me he was having business dinners. Photos of them in a beautiful house with hardwood floors and a stunning kitchen. A house I had never seen before. My legs gave out and I sat down hard on our kitchen stool. The same stool where Trevor had kissed me goodbye this morning, telling me he loved me and would miss me during my 2-day conference in Chicago. The same stool where he had canceled our anniversary dinner last month, claiming his mother was sick and needed him to drive her to the hospital. I had been so understanding, so supportive, so stupid. I scrolled back further, my heart breaking with each message. There were photos of Candace wearing jewelry I didn't recognize, expensive jewelry. Messages about their future together, and how they were taking things slow, so they could do it right this time. References to how I was just a phase, and how Trevor was going to handle the situation soon. The situation. That's what I was. Not his wife. Not the woman he promised to love and honor. Just a situation to be handled. My phone buzzed with a text from Trevor. Hey baby, stuck in a meeting. Might be late tonight. Don't wait up. Love you. I laughed, but it came out as a sob. Even now he was lying. I looked back at his secret phone. His last message to Candace was sent 10 minutes ago. Just told Zara I'll be late. Can't wait to see you. Should I bring dinner? Candace had replied immediately, yes. And bring that wine from our special place. Tonight's going to be perfect. Their special place. They had a special place. While I was building a marriage, they were building a relationship. While I was planning our future, he was planning mine. While I was falling deeper in love with my husband, he was falling back in love with the woman he had dated before me. I set the phone down and walked to our bedroom. Our bedroom with the photos of our wedding day, our honeymoon, our life together. All lies. Every smile, every kiss, every I love you, had been a performance while his heart was somewhere else. In our closet, I pulled out the box where we kept important documents. Birth certificates, social security cards, insurance policies. I needed to see our bank statements. I needed to know how deep this betrayal went. What I found made me physically sick. Transfers I had never authorized. Withdrawals from our joint savings account that I had been building for years. Money going to something called Candace Home Investments LLC. Thousands and thousands of dollars. Money I had earned. Money I had saved. Money I had trusted him to manage because he said he was better with finances. He had stolen from me to buy his mistress a house. I found the property records online. 4523 Maple Street. A beautiful 3-bedroom house with a white picket fence and rose bushes in the front yard. The house I had dreamed of buying for us. The house he had bought for her. The deed showed Trevor Wilson as the sole owner, but the mortgage payments were coming from our joint account. The most sickening part wasn't even the money. It was the date. He had bought it 3 months after our wedding. 3 months. While I was still glowing from our honeymoon, while I was still calling him my new husband, and giggling about our future, he was shopping for real estate with another woman. I printed everything. Bank statements, property records, mortgage documents, screenshots of their messages. My hands moved automatically while my mind tried to process the scope of his betrayal. This wasn't a mistake or a moment of weakness. This was systematic. Planned. Deliberate. Trevor came home at midnight, smelling like wine and perfume. Candace's perfume, I now realized. The same scent I had noticed on his clothes so many times before, always brushed off as someone at work wearing too much fragrance. How was your day, baby? He asked, kissing my forehead like he had every right to. Good, I managed. How was your meeting? Long and boring. But we got everything sorted out. He smiled at me with such sincerity that I almost believed him. Almost forgot about the phone upstairs, the bank statements hidden in my purse, the evidence of his double life spread across our dining room table. But I didn't forget. I would never forget. And as he fell asleep next to me, probably dreaming about his weekend plans with Candace, I lay awake planning something he would never expect. I wasn't going to scream or cry or beg him to choose me. I wasn't going to fight for a man who had never really been mine. I was going to disappear so completely and so successfully that by the time he realized what he had lost, it would be too late to ever get it back. Trevor had made his choice every single day for over 5 years. Now it was time for me to make mine. The next morning, Trevor left for work at 7 a.m., kissing me goodbye and telling me to have a wonderful day. I waited until his car disappeared around the corner before I called in sick to my own job. I had research to do. I started with social media. Candace Riley, I found her easily enough. Her Instagram was private, but her Facebook was open to the world. Photos of her at fancy restaurants with someone special, who was conveniently cropped out of every picture. Photos of her house, my house, with captions like, "Blessed to have this beautiful space," and "Dreams do come true when you have the right person supporting you." The comments made my stomach turn. Her friends congratulating her on her new place, and asking when they could meet her mystery man. Her sister writing, "So happy you found someone who treats you like the queen you are." I dug deeper into Trevor's lies. His phone records, which I could access through our family plan, showed a pattern that made me dizzy. Every Tuesday, Thursday, and weekend for the past year, he had dozens of calls and texts to Candace's number. During our anniversary dinner, the one that almost got canceled, he had texted her 17 times. During my birthday celebration, he had called her twice, stepping outside both times claiming it was work emergencies. Work emergencies. Business trips. Family obligations. Overtime. Late meetings. Every excuse he had ever given me now looked different through the lens of truth. I called his office, something I rarely did because I trusted him and didn't want to be that wife. His assistant, Patricia, was surprised to hear from me. "Oh, Zara. How nice to hear from you. What can I do for you? I was just wondering about Trevor's schedule this week. He mentioned he might be working late and I wanted to plan dinner accordingly." There was a pause. "Well, Trevor's been leaving right at 5 all week. In fact, he's been keeping pretty regular hours lately. Is everything okay?" My heart hammered. Of course. I must have misunderstood. "Thanks, Patricia." 5 o'clock. He had been leaving work at 5 o'clock and not coming home until 9 or 10. 4 to 5 hours unaccounted for, 3 days a week. Time he spent with Candace while I worried about him working too hard. I drove to his office building and sat in the parking garage with a baseball cap pulled low over my face. At exactly 5:03 p.m., Trevor walked out of the elevator, but instead of walking toward our car, the car I had bought him for his birthday, he walked to a vehicle I didn't recognize. A silver BMW. A silver BMW that, according to the registration I looked up later, belonged to Candace Riley. She was waiting for him in the driver's seat, and the kiss they shared made me grip my steering wheel so hard my knuckles went white. It wasn't a quick peck between friends. It was the kiss of two people deeply in love, reuniting after a long day apart. The kiss I thought was reserved for me. I followed them at a distance, feeling like a character in a movie I never wanted to star in. They drove to a cozy Italian restaurant downtown, the same restaurant where Trevor had proposed to me 3 years ago. I watched through the window as they shared a bottle of wine and held hands across the table. I watched her laugh at something he said, the same laugh I was sure he came home and told me about, claiming it happened during a business lunch with clients. They looked happy. They looked like a couple in love. They looked like everything I thought Trevor and I were supposed to be. When they left the restaurant, I followed them back to Maple Street. To the house he bought her with my money. I parked across the street and watched him carry her inside, his arm around her waist, her head on his shoulder. I watched the lights come on in what was clearly their bedroom. I watched the curtains close. I sat in my car for 2 hours, crying and planning. By the time Trevor's lies finished breaking my heart, my mind had moved past the pain and into something much more powerful: determination. I drove home and called my sister, Rachel, who lived 3 hours away. "Zara? It's late. Is everything okay?" "No," I said, my voice steadier than I felt. "Everything is not okay. But I need you to listen carefully and not ask questions yet. Can you do that?" "Of course. What do you need?" "I need you to know that if anyone asks, I've been at your house this weekend. I need you to be my alibi for something that isn't illegal but is absolutely necessary." Rachel was quiet for a moment. "This is about Trevor, isn't it?" "Yes. And I promise I'll tell you everything soon. But right now, I need to know you'll support me no matter what." "Always," she said without hesitation. "Whatever you're planning, I trust you. And if Trevor hurt you, then he deserves whatever's coming to him." I spent the rest of the night making lists and timelines. Every lie Trevor had told me, every dollar he had stolen, every weekend he had chosen her over me. I documented it all because I knew that soon I would need evidence. Soon I would need proof that the man I married was never really my husband at all. But first, I needed to remember who I used to be before I became Mrs. Trevor Wilson. I needed to remember Zara Thompson, the woman who had built a successful career in marketing, who had turned down job offers from international companies, who had been strong and independent before she fell in love with a man who was never worth her sacrifice. It was time for that woman to come back. And this time she was going to be unstoppable. Trevor came home at 11 p.m. with Chinese takeout and a guilty smile. "Thought I'd surprise you with dinner from that place you love," he said, setting the bags on our kitchen counter. The same counter where I had discovered his secret phone just 2 days ago. "That's sweet," I replied, accepting his kiss on the cheek while my stomach churned. "How was work?" "Brutal. Had to stay late to finish the Morrison project. But at least it's done now." Another lie. I had driven past his office at 8 p.m. His car wasn't there. Neither was he. While Trevor showered, I checked his secret phone. New messages from Candace. "Missing you already. Thank you for dinner. Can't wait for our weekend getaway." Weekend getaway. This Saturday, Trevor was supposed to help me plant flowers in our garden. Plans we had made a month ago. Plans he was apparently going to cancel with another convenient excuse. But instead of confronting him, I opened my laptop and did something I hadn't done in 3 years. I logged into my LinkedIn profile and updated my status to open to opportunities. Within an hour, my inbox was full. Recruiters from companies I had forgotten had tried to hire me. Job opportunities in New York, Seattle, Los Angeles. And one that made my heart skip. A senior marketing position with Hartwell and Associates in London, England. London. I had always dreamed of living in London. Before Trevor, I had even applied for jobs there, but when we got engaged, I turned down interviews because I thought we were building a life together. I thought we were a team. I clicked on the London position. Senior Marketing Director. International clients. Travel opportunities. A salary that was nearly double what I was making now. And most importantly, it was 5,000 miles away from Trevor Wilson and his lies. I drafted a careful email to the recruiter. "Dear Ms. Harrison, I see you've been trying to reach me about the Senior Marketing Director position in London. While my circumstances have recently changed, I would be very interested in discussing this opportunity. I can be available for a phone interview at your earliest convenience, and I'm prepared to relocate immediately if the position is a good fit. I look forward to hearing from you. Best regards, Zara Thompson." I used my maiden name deliberately. It was time to start remembering who I was before I became half of a lie. The response came within 30 minutes. "Ms. Thompson. Wonderful to hear from you. We've been hoping you might reconsider our offer. I have availability tomorrow at 2 p.m. London time, 9 a.m. your time, for a preliminary conversation. If that works, I'll send you the video call details. The position is still available, and based on your portfolio, you would be our top candidate. We're prepared to offer a full relocation package, including temporary housing while you settle in. Looking forward to speaking with you. Best regards, Sarah Harrison, Senior Recruiter, Hartwell and Associates." I stared at the screen. A full relocation package. Temporary housing. A complete fresh start, funded by people who valued my skills and wanted me to succeed. Everything Trevor had never offered me. While my husband slept beside me, probably dreaming about his weekend with another woman, I researched everything I could about London. Neighborhoods, cost of living, cultural differences. I looked at apartments online, imagining myself sipping tea in a flat with high ceilings and big windows, building a life that was entirely my own. By morning I had a plan. Step 1, get the job in London. Step 2, secure my finances and assets. Step 3, document everything about Trevor's affair and theft. Step 4, plan my exit strategy. Step 5, disappear completely and start over. Trevor woke up cheerful, kissing my shoulder and telling me about his day ahead. More lies about meetings and deadlines. More stories about why he'd be home late. More fiction about loving me while he spent his evenings with someone else. "I might have to work this weekend," he said casually, buttering his toast. "Big presentation on Monday." There it was. The excuse I had been waiting for. "Oh, that's too bad," I said, keeping my voice light. "I was looking forward to our garden project." "I know, baby. I'm sorry. We can do it next weekend, I promise." Another promise he had no intention of keeping. Another lie wrapped up in false affection. "Actually," I said as if the idea had just occurred to me, "maybe I'll visit Rachel this weekend. She's been asking me to come see her new apartment." Trevor's face brightened a little too quickly. "That's a great idea. You two deserve some sister time." Of course he thought it was a great idea. It would give him a guilt-free weekend with Candace. He could probably even stay over at the house he bought her with my money. I might make it a long weekend, I added. Take Friday off and come back Monday night. Perfect, he said, and I could hear the relief in his voice. That sounds really good for you. Really good for him was what he meant. 4 days and 3 nights of uninterrupted time with his mistress while his wife was conveniently out of town. After Trevor left for work, I called Rachel. I need to visit you this weekend, I said. But I won't actually be coming to your house. I need you to cover for me if anyone asks. Where will you be? London. Rachel was quiet for a long moment. Okay. I don't know what you're up to, but I trust you. What do you need me to do? Just be my alibi. If Trevor calls looking for me, tell him I'm out shopping or in the shower or taking a nap. Make it sound like I'm having a relaxing sister weekend. Done. But Zara? Yeah. Whatever he did, I'm proud of you for not just taking it. You deserve better than a man who makes you sneak around to protect yourself. Her words hit me harder than I expected. I did deserve better. I deserved a man who chose me every single day, not just when it was convenient. I deserved a partnership built on honesty, not a marriage built on lies. I deserved a love that made me feel cherished, not like a problem to be managed. Trevor had made his choice long ago. He had chosen Candace, chosen deception, chosen to steal from me while pretending to love me. Now it was time for me to make my choice. And I was choosing myself. At 9 a.m. sharp, my phone rang. Sarah Harrison from London, ready to offer me the opportunity of a lifetime. As I answered the call, I looked around our kitchen one more time. Soon, I would never have to see this counter where I discovered his betrayal. Never have to sleep in the bed where he lied to me every night. Never have to pretend I didn't know that my marriage was a performance for an audience of one. Miss Thompson? This is Sarah Harrison. Are you ready to discuss your future in London? Yes, I said, and for the first time in months I meant it completely. I'm absolutely ready. The video interview went better than I had dared to hope. Sarah Harrison loved my portfolio, my experience, and my enthusiasm for international marketing. By the end of our conversation, she was already talking about salary negotiations and start dates. We'd like to fly you to London next weekend for a face-to-face interview with the partners, she said. Would that be possible? Next weekend. The same weekend Trevor was planning to spend with Candace at their romantic getaway. That would be perfect, I said. I'm very flexible with my schedule right now. After we hung up, I sat in my car in our driveway staring at our house. Our house that wasn't really ours, since Trevor had been using our money to buy property for another woman. Our house where I had been so happy, so trusting, so completely unaware that my entire life was built on lies. I needed more evidence. If I was going to start over in London, I needed to make sure Trevor couldn't come after my assets or claim I abandoned our marriage without cause. I needed proof of his affair, his theft, and his systematic deception. I called a private investigator that I found online, a woman named Isabel Santos who specialized in infidelity cases. I need documentation of my husband's affair, I told her. Photos, video evidence, financial records. Everything that would hold up in court. How long has this been going on? She asked. I think our entire marriage. But I only found out 3 days ago. Isabel's voice softened. I'm sorry. That's always the hardest kind of case. The long-term deception ones. But yes, I can help you. I'll need some basic information to get started. I gave her Trevor's schedule, Candace's address, their usual meeting spots, and access to our financial records. Within 24 hours, she called me back. Zara, I have to tell you, this is one of the most brazen affairs I've ever documented. They're not even trying to hide it. I have photos of them at restaurants, holding hands in public, kissing in parking lots. And the financial evidence is overwhelming. He's been systematically transferring marital assets to fund this relationship. How much money are we talking about? Based on what I've found so far, approximately $150,000 over the past 3 years. The house purchase, car payments, credit cards in her name that he's been paying, vacation expenses, jewelry, even what looks like plastic surgery bills. I felt the blood drain from my face. $150,000. Money I had earned working 60-hour weeks. Money I had saved for our future, our retirement, our dreams. Money he had stolen to fund his relationship with another woman. There's more, Isabel continued. I found records of a joint bank account he opened with her. He's been depositing money there monthly. It looks like he was planning to leave you but wanted to make sure she was financially secure first. The betrayal kept getting deeper. It wasn't just an affair, it was a complete financial conspiracy. Trevor hadn't just been cheating on me. He had been systematically stealing from me to build a life with someone else. I need everything, I told Isabel. Photos, bank records, property deeds, credit reports. I need enough evidence to protect myself completely. You'll have it within a week. And Zara? Document everything on your end too. Keep records of his lies, his fake business trips, his excuses. The more evidence you have of systematic deception, the better. That evening, Trevor came home with flowers and a guilty expression. I'm sorry about this weekend, baby, he said, handing me a bouquet of roses. I know you were looking forward to our garden project. The roses were beautiful. They were also exactly the same type I had seen in photos of Candace's house, arranged in a vase on her dining room table. He had probably bought 24 roses and split them between his wife and his mistress. It's okay, I said, accepting his kiss. Work is important. You're amazing for being so understanding. I know I've been distracted lately, but things will settle down soon. I promise. More promises he had no intention of keeping. More lies wrapped in fake affection. More manipulation designed to keep me quiet and compliant while he stole my money and my life. But I smiled and told him I loved him because I needed him to feel secure in his deception. I needed him to believe I was still the trusting, naive wife he had been lying to for years. While Trevor watched TV, I went to our home office and began photographing documents. Bank statements, credit card bills, mortgage paperwork, investment accounts. I uploaded everything to a secure cloud storage account that only I could access. If Trevor tried to hide assets or claim he didn't steal from our marriage, I would have proof of every transaction. I also started a detailed journal, documenting every lie he told and every excuse he made. Thursday night, claimed he was working late but was actually at dinner with Candace until 10 p.m. Friday morning, said he loved me and couldn't wait to spend the weekend together, then canceled our plans 2 hours later claiming work emergency. The journal entries were painful to write, but they were also liberating. Seeing his lies written down in black and white made it impossible to deny the reality of my situation. My marriage was fake. My husband was a thief and a liar. My life was built on deception. But it wouldn't be for much longer. Saturday morning, Trevor left early for his weekend work project, kissing me goodbye and telling me to enjoy my time with Rachel. As soon as his car disappeared, I began phase 2 of my plan. I drove to 3 different banks and opened new accounts in my maiden name. Accounts that Trevor had no access to and no knowledge of. Then I began the careful process of moving money. Not enough to trigger any alerts or raise suspicions, but enough to protect myself if he tried to drain our joint accounts or disappear with what was left of our savings. I also met with a divorce attorney, Janet Morrison, who specialized in financial fraud cases. This is textbook financial abuse, she told me after reviewing my evidence. He's been stealing marital assets to support another relationship. In any divorce proceeding, you'd be entitled to recover those funds plus damages. How long would a divorce take? With this much evidence of fraud and adultery? 6 months, maybe less. Especially if he doesn't contest it. What if he tries to claim I abandoned the marriage? Janet smiled grimly. With what you've shown me, he'd have a hard time claiming anything. You have documentation of systematic financial abuse, adultery, and fraud. Any judge would see that you were protecting yourself from further harm. 6 months. In 6 months, I could be legally free from Trevor Wilson and his lies. In 6 months, I could be starting my new life in London with my assets protected and my future secured. But first, I had to get through next weekend. The weekend when Trevor thought I'd be safely tucked away at my sister's house while he enjoyed a romantic getaway with Candace. The weekend I'd actually be in London, interviewing for the job that would give me everything I needed to disappear from his life forever. As I drove home to prepare for my fake trip to Rachel's house, I felt something I hadn't experienced in years, excitement about my future. For the first time since I discovered Trevor's secret phone, I was looking forward instead of backward. I was planning instead of crying. I was taking action instead of being acted upon. Trevor had spent years stealing from me, lying to me, and betraying me. But he had also accidentally given me the greatest gift possible, the absolute certainty that leaving him was the right choice. Soon he would come home to an empty house and divorce papers. Soon, he would realize that the woman he had underestimated and stolen from was far stronger than he had ever imagined. And by then, I would be 5,000 miles away, building the life I should have had all along. I told Trevor I was leaving for Rachel's house at noon on Friday, but my flight to London departed at 2 p.m. The 3-hour window gave me time to make sure he was safely at work before I headed to the airport. Isabel, the private investigator, had delivered everything I needed. Photos of Trevor and Candace together, financial records showing the systematic theft of our assets, and a timeline that proved their relationship had been ongoing throughout our entire marriage. She had even discovered that Candace knew Trevor was married from the very beginning. There were text messages where she joked about being the other woman, and how she was worth the wait, while Trevor figured out how to handle his situation. His situation. That's all I had ever been to him. I packed one suitcase with interview clothes and essentials, telling Trevor I was just taking a weekend bag to Rachel's. He barely looked up from his coffee and newspaper. "Have fun with your sister," he said, kissing my cheek absent-mindedly. "I'll miss you." Another lie. The moment I left, he'd probably call Candace to confirm their weekend plans. Maybe he'd even stay at our house on Maple Street tonight, sleeping in the bed he bought with money I earned. The flight to London was the longest 8 hours of my life, but also the most hopeful. I watched the sun set over the Atlantic and imagined it rising over my new life. By the time we landed at Heathrow, I felt like a different person. Not Trevor Wilson's deceived wife, but Zara Thompson, accomplished marketing executive, ready to conquer a new city and a new career. Sarah Harrison met me at the airport, a tall woman with kind eyes and a warm smile. "Miss Thompson, welcome to London. How was your flight?" "Perfect," I said and meant it. The ride into the city took my breath away. London was everything I had dreamed it would be: historic and modern, bustling and sophisticated, full of possibility. We drove past the Thames, Big Ben, the London Eye, and I felt my heart lift in ways it hadn't in years. "We've booked you at a lovely hotel in Covent Garden," Sarah said. "It's walking distance from our offices and you'll get a real feel for the neighborhood." The hotel was beautiful, a boutique property with high ceilings, elegant furnishings, and a view of the bustling market below. My room was twice the size of the bedroom I shared with Trevor, and entirely my own. No lies, no secret phones, no betrayal. Just space for me to think and plan and dream. Saturday morning, I woke up to British sunshine streaming through my windows and the sound of street performers below. I dressed carefully in my best suit, navy blue with a silk blouse, the outfit that made me feel powerful and professional. The woman in the mirror looked confident and strong. She looked like someone who deserved better than Trevor Wilson's lies. The interview was at Hartwell and Associates offices in a beautiful converted Victorian building near Hyde Park. The moment I walked into their reception area, I knew I wanted to work there. It was sophisticated but warm, international but personal. Everything about it felt right. The interview team consisted of 3 partners: James Hartwell himself, an elegant man in his 50s, Rebecca Chin, a sharp woman about my age who ran their European accounts, and David Singh, their creative director who specialized in international campaigns. "Miss Thompson," James said, shaking my hand warmly, "we're delighted you could join us. We've been following your work for some time." The next 3 hours flew by. We discussed marketing strategies, international campaigns, cultural differences and advertising approaches. They showed me recent projects, campaigns for luxury brands, tech companies, cultural institutions. Work that was creative, challenging and meaningful. "What draws you to London specifically?" Rebecca asked. I had prepared for this question, but the answer that came out was more honest than I had planned. "I need a fresh start," I said. "I've reached a point in my life where I realize I've been playing small, limiting myself based on other people's expectations. London represents possibility to me. The chance to do work that matters with people who value innovation and growth." David nodded approvingly. "That's exactly the kind of mindset we're looking for. Our industry changes constantly, and we need team members who embrace change rather than fear it." "Change doesn't frighten me," I said. "Staying in situations that no longer serve me does." By the end of the interview, they were already talking about start dates and work visa requirements. "We'd like to offer you the position," James said. "The salary we discussed, full relocation assistance and a flexible start date. When would you be available?" My heart hammered. This was it. My escape route, handed to me by people who valued my skills and wanted me to succeed. "How quickly could I start?" I asked. "With visa processing and everything, probably 6 to 8 weeks, Rebecca said. "Would that work for you?" 6 to 8 weeks. Enough time to finalize my divorce, sell what I needed to sell, and disappear from Trevor's life completely. "That would be perfect," I said. After the interview, Sarah took me on a tour of potential neighborhoods. We looked at flats in Notting Hill, Kensington, and Shoreditch. Each area had its own character, its own charm. We stopped for afternoon tea at a cafe overlooking Regent's Park, and I could picture myself living this life. Walking to work through beautiful streets, exploring museums and theaters on weekends, building friendships with colleagues who respected me. "There's one more place I'd like to show you," Sarah said. "It might be perfect for you." The flat was in a converted Georgian townhouse in Bloomsbury, just a 15-minute walk from the office. High ceilings, original hardwood floors, large windows that filled the space with light. The bedroom was twice the size of the one I shared with Trevor, with built-in bookshelves and a window seat where I could drink morning coffee and watch London wake up. "It comes furnished if you need it," the landlord said. "Month-to-month lease until you're ready to buy something more permanent." Perfect. I could arrive in London with just my suitcase and start my new life immediately. No furniture to argue about with Trevor, no possessions to remind me of our fake marriage. Just a clean slate and endless possibility. That evening, I walked along the Thames as the sun set over the city. My phone buzzed with a text from Trevor. "Hope you're having fun with Rachel. Miss you." I almost laughed. While he was texting his wife fake messages about missing her, he was probably lying in bed with Candace, planning their future together. While he thought I was safely contained at my sister's house, I was standing on London Bridge, looking at the city that would soon be my home. I typed back, "Having a wonderful time. See you Monday." Not a lie for once. I was having a wonderful time. The most wonderful time I'd had in years. Sunday morning, I explored more of the city. I walked through Hyde Park, visited the Tate Modern, had lunch in a pub that had been serving customers for 300 years. London felt like home in a way that my actual home never had. Maybe because London didn't come with lies and betrayal attached. Maybe because in London I could be myself instead of the naive wife of a cheating husband. My flight back departed Sunday evening. As the plane lifted off from Heathrow, I looked down at the lights of London and made a promise to myself. In 2 months I would be back. Not as a visitor but as a resident. Not as Trevor Wilson's wife, but as Zara Thompson, Senior Marketing Director, living the life I was meant to live. The flight home was bittersweet. I was excited about my future but dreaded returning to the lies and pretense. In less than 12 hours, I'd have to go back to playing the role of the trusting wife while my husband continued stealing from me and planning his future with another woman. But it wouldn't be for much longer. Soon, Trevor would discover that his situation had evolved. Soon, he would learn that the woman he had underestimated was far more capable than he had ever imagined. As we flew over the Atlantic, I began planning my next move. The job in London was secured. My finances were protected. My evidence was documented. Now I needed to plan my exit strategy the moment when Trevor Wilson would realize that his 5-year performance had come to an end. Trevor picked me up from the airport Monday night with flowers and a guilty smile. The flowers were wilted, clearly purchased at the last minute from the airport gift shop. Even his fake gestures of affection were half-hearted now. "How was Rachel?" he asked as we drove home. "Great. We had a really good talk about life and making changes." "That's nice," he said absently, and I could tell his mind was elsewhere. Probably thinking about Candace and whatever romantic weekend they'd shared while I was supposedly at my sister's house. The house felt different when we walked in. Smaller somehow. Less like a home and more like a stage set for a play I no longer wanted to be in. While Trevor showered, I walked through the rooms and tried to decide what I actually cared about keeping. Not much, it turned out. Most of our furniture had been chosen together, which meant it was tainted with memories of our fake marriage. Our wedding photos made me sick to look at. Even the dishes felt like props from someone else's life. The only things I really wanted were personal: my grandmother's jewelry, my photography equipment, my books, and my laptop. Everything else could stay with Trevor. Let him explain to Candace why his wife's belongings had suddenly disappeared. Over the next few weeks, I became a master of silent preparation. Every day while Trevor was at work, or with Candace, I continued moving money to my private accounts. Small amounts that wouldn't trigger any alerts. I sold my jewelry online, piece by piece except for the pieces from my grandmother. I digitized all my photos and uploaded them to cloud storage. I even started selling clothes on consignment, telling Trevor I was decluttering and simplifying our life. He loved that explanation. "That's great, baby," he'd say. "Less stuff means less stress." If only he knew that the biggest source of stress in my life was him. Isabel continued providing updates on Trevor's activities. He and Candace had spent my London weekend at a bed and breakfast in Napa Valley, the same bed and breakfast where Trevor and I had gone for our first anniversary. They had dinner reservations at romantic restaurants, couples massage appointments, and wine tasting tours. He had used our credit card for everything. "I have video of them checking in as Mr. and Mrs. Wilson," Isabel told me. "He's been using your married name for hotel reservations with her." The audacity was breathtaking. Not only was he cheating on me, he was literally replacing me. taking another woman on our anniversary trips, using our name, creating new memories to overwrite the fake ones he'd made with me. But each new piece of evidence made me more determined. Trevor thought he was clever, managing 2 relationships while planning his exit strategy. What he didn't realize was that I was planning my own exit, and unlike his, mine would actually succeed. 3 weeks after my London trip, I got the call I'd been waiting for. Zara, it's Sarah Harrison. Your work visa has been approved. You can start as soon as you're ready. How soon is soon? Next month if you want. We're excited to have you join the team. Next month. 4 weeks to finalize everything and disappear from Trevor Wilson's life forever. That evening, Trevor came home with takeout and another guilty expression. By now, I recognized the signs. Guilt meant he'd spent extra time with Candace that day, probably making plans for their future together. How was your day? I asked, accepting his kiss on the cheek. Good. Productive. Hey, I might need to travel for work next weekend. Seattle. Big client presentation. Seattle. I almost admired his creativity. He'd already used Chicago, Denver, and Phoenix as fake business trip destinations. At least he was expanding his geographical repertoire. That's fine, I said. I might visit Rachel again anyway. We've been talking about making it a monthly tradition. His face brightened immediately. That sounds great. You two deserve regular sister time. Regular sister time. What he really meant was regular guilt-free weekends with his mistress. Well, he was about to get more guilt-free time than he'd bargained for. That night, while Trevor slept peacefully beside me, I finalized my divorce paperwork. Janet Morrison, my attorney, had prepared everything. All I needed to do was serve him the papers and file them with the court. By the time the process was complete, I'd already be settled in London. I also wrote a letter. Not to Trevor, he didn't deserve my words, but to myself. A reminder of why I was leaving, what I'd discovered, and what I hoped to build in London. I sealed it in an envelope to read on my first day at my new job, a reminder of how far I'd come. The next morning, Trevor left for work with his usual kiss and "I love you." I watched him drive away and realized it would probably be one of the last times. In less than a month, I would never have to watch him leave for fake business meetings again. Never have to listen to his lies about working late. Never have to pretend I believed him when he said he loved me. I spent that day apartment hunting online. The flat in Bloomsbury was still available and I put down a deposit. My London life was becoming real: a address, a job, a future that belonged entirely to me. I also made an appointment to sell my car. I wouldn't need it in London, and the money would help with my fresh start. Trevor's name wasn't on the title, so he had no claim to it. Just like he'd have no claim to my new life once I disappeared from his old one. 2 weeks before my planned departure, I started leaving hints. Nothing obvious, just subtle signs that would make sense in retrospect but wouldn't tip him off beforehand. I've been thinking about what would make me really happy, I told him over dinner one night. Oh yeah? What's that? Travel. Adventure. Maybe living somewhere completely different. Don't you ever think about just starting over somewhere new? Trevor shook his head immediately. No way. I like our life here. Our house, our routine, our friends. Why would we want to change all that? Our house that he'd been neglecting while he bought another woman a different house. Our routine that included him lying to me multiple times per week. Our friends who didn't know their friend was a cheater and a thief. Just a thought, I said mildly. Sometimes I think it would be exciting to be someone completely new in a completely new place. You're perfect just the way you are, he said, reaching across the table to squeeze my hand. And perfect right here. More lies. If I was so perfect, why had he been sleeping with someone else for our entire marriage? If here was so perfect, why did he spend half his time at another woman's house? But I smiled and squeezed his hand back because I needed him to believe everything was normal until the moment I disappeared. 1 week before my departure, I had my final meeting with Isabel. She handed me a thick folder containing every piece of evidence we'd gathered over the past month. This is enough to protect you in any legal proceeding, she said. Financial fraud, systematic adultery, theft of marital assets. He can't touch you. Thank you, I said. You've given me back my life. You did that yourself. I just documented what he took from you. That night, I booked my one-way ticket to London. First class, because after years of putting Trevor's needs first, I deserved to travel in comfort. The ticket was scheduled for the same weekend Trevor would be on his fake business trip to Seattle. By the time he returned from his romantic getaway with Candace, I'd be gone. Trevor came home that evening with wine and Chinese food, like he had the night I first discovered his secret phone. But this time, instead of feeling devastated, I felt free. This was probably our last dinner together as husband and wife, though he had no idea. To us, he said, raising his wine glass. To new beginnings, I replied, clinking my glass against his. He had no idea how new my beginning was about to be. Friday morning arrived gray and drizzly, matching my mood perfectly. Trevor was bustling around the house, packing for his business trip to Seattle, while I pretended to prepare for another weekend at Rachel's. I hate leaving you again, he said, zipping up his suitcase. But this Morrison account is huge for us. The Morrison account. He'd been using that same fake client for 6 months now. I wondered if he'd actually forgotten he'd already used that lie, or if he just thought I was too stupid to notice. It's okay, I said, folding clothes into my overnight bag. Rachel and I have been looking forward to this weekend. We kissed goodbye in the driveway, a performance of marital affection that made my skin crawl. Trevor's lips were already smiling as he pulled away, probably thinking about seeing Candace in an hour. Love you, baby, he called from his car window. Love you too, I replied, and those were the last lies we would ever tell each other. I waited until his car disappeared around the corner before I went back inside. The house felt different now, empty of pretense, ready to be abandoned. I walked through each room one final time, saying goodbye to the life I'd thought I was building. In our bedroom, I left the divorce papers on Trevor's pillow, along with copies of all the evidence Isabel had gathered. Bank statements showing his theft. Photos of him with Candace. Property records for the house he'd bought her. A timeline of his lies. Everything laid out so he'd understand exactly how much I knew and how long I'd known it. I also left a note, brief and to the point. Trevor, I know about Candace. I know about the house. I know about the money you stole. I know about all of it. Don't try to find me. Don't try to contact me. Don't try to explain or apologize. Our marriage was over the moment you chose her. I'm just making it official. Sir. I sealed my wedding ring inside the envelope with the note. 5 years of my life reduced to a few sentences and a piece of jewelry that had never meant to him what it meant to me. My flight didn't leave until evening, but I wanted to be completely finished with this house before then. I loaded my car with the few possessions I actually wanted: my grandmother's jewelry box, my camera equipment, my laptop, and one suitcase of clothes. Everything else stayed behind, props for a play that was finally ending. I spent the afternoon driving around our city one last time, visiting places that had been important to me before Trevor. The coffee shop where I used to write in my journal. The bookstore where I'd spent Saturday mornings browsing new releases. The park where I used to go running before I got too busy supporting someone else's dreams. All of these places existed before Trevor Wilson entered my life, and they would continue to exist after I left his. The city would go on without our fake marriage. My friends would eventually understand why I had to disappear. Life would continue, healthier and more honest, without the weight of his deception. At 4 p.m., I drove to the airport and checked in for my flight to London. The airline agent smiled as she handed me my boarding pass. Traveling for business or pleasure, Miss Thompson? A new life, I said, and her smile widened. How exciting. London is a wonderful city for new beginnings. I had 3 hours before my flight, so I found a quiet corner in the departure lounge and called Rachel. How are you feeling? She asked. Free, I said. Scared but free. That's exactly how you should feel. You're doing something incredibly brave. I should have done it years ago. You did it when you were ready. That's what matters. While we talked, I got a text from Trevor. Just arrived in Seattle. Hotel is nice. Missing you already. Seattle. He was probably just arriving at Candace's house, or maybe they were already checked into some romantic hotel for their weekend getaway. Either way, he was still lying, still pretending, still managing his two relationships like some kind of twisted juggling act. I deleted the text without responding. Let him think I was busy with sister time. Let him enjoy his weekend with Candace without any guilt or worry about me. He'd have plenty to worry about when he got home Sunday night. At 6 p.m., I boarded my flight to London. As the plane pulled away from the gate, I looked out the window at the city lights starting to twinkle in the early evening darkness. Somewhere down there, Trevor was probably having dinner with Candace, telling her how much he loved her, maybe even discussing their future together. Somewhere down there, the house we'd shared was waiting for him to discover that his situation had finally handled itself. But I wasn't thinking about Trevor anymore. As the plane lifted off, climbing toward the clouds and carrying me away from 5 years of lies, I was thinking about tomorrow. My first morning in London as a resident, not a visitor. My first day of being Zara Thompson again, not Trevor Wilson's deceived wife. The flight attendant offered me champagne and I accepted. Why not celebrate? I was flying first class to start a new job in a city I loved, with enough money saved to support myself and evidence to protect my assets from a husband who had stolen from me for years. Special occasion? The flight attendant asked. The best kind, I said, raising my glass. I'm flying toward my real life. 8 hours later, I would land at Heathrow Airport as a free woman. But Trevor wouldn't discover his empty house and divorce papers for another 36 hours. He'd spend Saturday and Sunday enjoying his time with Candace, probably feeling more relaxed than he had in months because he thought his wife was safely tucked away at her sister's house. What he didn't know was that his wife was no longer his wife. What he didn't know was that Zara Thompson had taken back her maiden name, her assets, and her future. What he didn't know was that the situation he'd been managing for 5 years had just managed itself right out of his life. As I settled into my seat and opened the book I'd brought for the flight, I felt something I hadn't experienced in years: complete peace. No more wondering where Trevor really was. No more pretending to believe his excuses. No more sharing my bed with a man who was sharing his heart with someone else. The plane banked left, carrying me over the Atlantic toward London and the life I was meant to live. Below us, the lights of home grew smaller and smaller until they disappeared completely. Just like I had. I landed at Heathrow Monday morning as London was waking up. The immigration officer smiled when she stamped my new work visa. Welcome to the UK, Miss Thompson. Here for work. Here for a new life, I said, and she laughed. Well, you've chosen the right city for it. London loves a fresh start. Sarah Harrison met me at arrivals with a car and driver, a luxury I still wasn't used to but was learning to accept. How does it feel to be back? She asked as we drove through the morning traffic. Like coming home, I said, and realized it was true. The bustling streets, the mix of historic and modern architecture, the energy of millions of people starting their week, it all felt right in a way that my old life never had. We drove straight to my new flat in Bloomsbury. The Georgian townhouse looked even more beautiful in person than it had online. High windows, original architectural details, a red door that looked like something from a storybook. The landlord left keys with the management company, Sarah said. Take today to settle in, and we'll see you tomorrow morning for your first day. My first day. At a job where people valued my skills and wanted me to succeed. In a city where no one knew me as Trevor Wilson's wife. In a life that was entirely my own. The flat was perfect, furnished with elegant pieces that felt sophisticated but comfortable. Floor-to-ceiling bookshelves in the living room. A bedroom with windows facing a quiet garden square. A kitchen with modern appliances and a breakfast nook where I could drink coffee and plan my days. I unpacked my single suitcase and hung my clothes in the spacious closet. It took all of 15 minutes. Everything I owned in the world now fit in one bedroom, and instead of feeling sad about that, I felt liberated. No possessions tying me to the past. No reminders of fake happiness cluttering my space. Just the essentials I needed to build something real. My phone had been buzzing intermittently during the flight, but I'd ignored it. Now I checked my messages. 3 texts from Trevor, all sent from Seattle. Hope you're having fun with Rachel. Meeting's going well. Miss you. Can't wait to see you tomorrow night. Miss me. He missed me while he was probably lying in bed with another woman. The delusion was almost impressive. I turned off my phone. In about 6 hours, Trevor would be walking into our house, his house now, expecting to find his unsuspecting wife waiting for him. Instead, he'd find divorce papers and evidence of every lie he'd ever told me. Let him process that without any input from me. I spent Monday exploring my new neighborhood. Bloomsbury was everything I'd dreamed of: tree-lined streets, charming cafes, the British Museum just a 10-minute walk away. I bought groceries at a local market where the vendor called me Love and recommended the best tea for morning energy. I found a little restaurant called the Literary Cafe that served amazing fish and chips and had bookshelves lining every wall. That evening, I treated myself to dinner at a pub called The George, which had been serving customers since 1723. I sat by myself at a corner table, eating shepherd's pie and reading a book about London history. For the first time in 5 years, I was alone in public without feeling lonely or self-conscious. I was exactly where I wanted to be, doing exactly what I wanted to do. Around 9 p.m. London time, which was 1 p.m. in California, my phone started buzzing non-stop. Trevor was calling. Again and again and again. I let it go to voicemail and ordered another glass of wine. Tuesday morning, I woke up in my own bed, in my own flat, in my new city. No lies to listen to over breakfast. No fake kisses from a cheating husband. No pretending to believe stories about late meetings and business trips. Just coffee, toast with marmalade, and the view of London rooftops from my bedroom window. My first day at Hartwell and Associates was everything I'd hoped for. The office was gorgeous, exposed brick walls, tall windows, modern furniture mixed with vintage touches. My colleagues were welcoming and impressive, the kind of people who challenged each other to do better work. The projects they showed me were creative and meaningful, exactly the type of work I'd always wanted to do. "We're so glad you're here," Rebecca said during our team meeting. "The Morrison campaign has been waiting for your touch." Morrison. I almost laughed. Trevor had been using a fake Morrison account to cover his lies for months, and now I was working on a real Morrison campaign for a prestigious London firm. The universe had a sense of humor. During lunch break, I finally checked my voicemails. 17 messages from Trevor, ranging from confused to angry to desperate. "Zara, where are you? I came home and found, we need to talk. Call me. Baby, I can explain everything. It's not what it looks like. Please call me. This is crazy. You can't just disappear. We're married. We need to work this out. I know you're angry, but running away isn't the answer. Come home and let's talk like adults. Zara, please. I love you. We can fix this." The progression from manipulation to desperation was almost textbook. He'd probably called Rachel looking for me, only to discover that I wasn't there and never had been. He'd probably tried to figure out where I'd gone, only to realize he didn't actually know much about my life outside of our marriage. He'd probably called in sick to work so he could spend the day trying to track me down. Good. Let him experience a fraction of the confusion and betrayal I'd felt when I discovered his secret phone. I deleted all the voicemails without listening to them completely. Whatever Trevor was feeling now, it was the natural consequence of his choices. I hadn't abandoned our marriage, he'd abandoned it years ago when he decided to build a life with someone else using my money and trust. That afternoon, my new colleagues took me out for drinks to celebrate my first day. We went to a rooftop bar with views of the Thames, and I found myself laughing more than I had in years. These people were smart, funny, and ambitious. They treated me like an equal and valued my ideas. They had no idea I was running from anything to them. I was just Zara Thompson, the talented marketing director they'd hired from America. "To new beginnings," James Hartwell said, raising his glass. "To new beginnings," I agreed and meant it completely. When I got home that evening, there were 43 missed calls from Trevor and 12 voicemails I didn't bother listening to. Instead, I called Janet Morrison, my divorce attorney. "He's been trying to reach me," I told her. "That's normal. Don't respond. Let me handle all communication through legal channels. It's cleaner that way." "How long before everything's finalized?" "With the evidence you provided and the fact that you're not contesting asset division, probably 4 months. Maybe less if he doesn't fight it." 4 months. By summer, I would be legally free from Trevor Wilson. Free to use my maiden name officially. Free from any legal connection to his lies and theft. That night, I sat in my window seat with a cup of tea and looked out at London settling into evening. Street lamps flickering on, people walking home from work, the city transitioning from day to night in the most beautiful way. My phone buzzed one more time. A text from Trevor. "I know you're reading these. Please just tell me where you are. Let me explain." For a moment, I almost felt sorry for him. He was probably genuinely confused about why his wife had disappeared instead of confronting him. He was probably wondering how I'd found out about Candace, how long I'd known, why I'd chosen to leave instead of fight for our marriage. But then I remembered the secret phone. The stolen money. The house he'd bought another woman with my savings. The 5 years of systematic lying and emotional manipulation. The wedding ring he'd put on my finger while planning his future with someone else. I turned off my phone and made myself dinner in my beautiful kitchen. Tomorrow, I would go to my new job and work on projects that mattered with people who respected me. Tomorrow evening, I would explore more of London and maybe catch a show in the West End. Tomorrow night, I would fall asleep in my own bed in my own flat in my new city, with no one lying next to me about where they'd been or who they'd been with. Trevor could keep calling. He could keep trying to explain. He could spend his nights with Candace wondering why his wife had chosen disappearing over fighting. But I was done being his wife. I was done fighting for someone who had never fought for me. I was done with Trevor Wilson and everything he represented. I was Zara Thompson now, and Zara Thompson was exactly where she belonged. 3 weeks into my London life, I had fallen into the most wonderful routine. Morning coffee in my window seat, watching the city wake up. A 20-minute walk to work through Russell Square, where I'd started recognizing other regular commuters. Challenging, creative work that made me excited to get up each morning. Evening explorations of my new city, discovering hidden pubs, art galleries, and bookshops. I hadn't thought about Trevor in days. My phone still received his calls and messages, but I'd learned to ignore them completely. According to Janet Morrison, he was cooperating with the divorce proceedings, which was legal language for he realized he had no choice given the evidence. The house would be sold and the proceeds divided according to California law, minus the money he'd stolen to support his affair with Candace. By the time everything was calculated, he'd actually owe me money. He's also agreed not to contest the adultery charges, Janet told me during our weekly call. His attorney is advising him to settle quickly and quietly. Of course he wanted it settled quietly. Trevor's entire life was built on managing appearances. Having his theft and infidelity exposed in a public divorce proceeding would ruin the careful image he'd cultivated. What about the house he bought for Candace? That's more complicated since it's not technically a marital asset, but we're pursuing reimbursement for the funds that came from your joint accounts. You should recover most of it. Most of it. After 5 years of marriage and systematic financial abuse, I would recover most of the money he'd stolen from me. It should have made me angry, but instead I felt nothing. Money could be replaced. Time couldn't. Trust couldn't. The years I'd wasted believing in our fake marriage were gone forever. But the life I was building in London was worth all of it. My colleagues had started including me in after-work activities, and I'd discovered that I was actually good at making friends when I wasn't constantly worried about where my husband really was. Rebecca and I had become particularly close. She was brilliant, funny, and refreshingly direct about everything. You seem different from when you first arrived, she told me one evening as we shared fish and chips at a pub near the office. More relaxed. Lighter somehow. I feel lighter, I said. Like I've been carrying weight I didn't realize was there. Divorce will do that, she said matter-of-factly. I went through one 3 years ago. Hardest thing I ever did, but the best decision I ever made. Now I wake up every morning grateful that I'm not married to that lying bastard anymore. I laughed. That's exactly how I feel. Good. Life's too short to spend it with someone who doesn't deserve you. 1 month into my new life, something unexpected happened. I met someone. It wasn't dramatic or romantic in the movie sense. I was browsing books at Waterstones on a Saturday afternoon when a man reached for the same architectural photography book I was considering. Sorry, he said, pulling his hand back. You were here first. We can look at it together, I said. I'm just deciding if it's worth buying. He was tall, with kind eyes and slightly messy brown hair. Definitely British based on his accent. Probably in his mid-30s, wearing a well-tailored jacket over jeans. Are you interested in architecture? He asked, opening the book between us. I'm interested in beautiful buildings. Does that count? He laughed. It absolutely counts. I'm Oliver, by the way. Oliver Hayes. Zara Thompson. We spent an hour looking through books together, talking about London's architecture, his work as an architect, my new job in marketing. He was easy to talk to, genuinely interested in what I had to say, and refreshingly honest about everything. I love what I do, he said, but I also love leaving work at the office and having a life outside of it. Balance is important. Balance? What a concept. Trevor had never understood the idea of work-life balance, probably because his work-life included so much time with his mistress. Would you like to get coffee? Oliver asked as we prepared to leave the bookstore. I know a great place nearby. I almost said no automatically, the way I would have 6 months ago when I was still married to Trevor. But I wasn't married to Trevor anymore. I wasn't married to anyone. I was free to have coffee with attractive architects who made me laugh. I'd love to, I said. The coffee date turned into dinner. Dinner turned into a long walk along the Thames. The walk turned into making plans to see each other again. This might be forward, Oliver said as we stood outside my flat, but I really enjoyed today. I'd love to take you to dinner next weekend if you're interested. I'm very interested, I said and realized I meant it. It had been so long since I'd felt genuine interest in someone. So long since I'd had a conversation with a man who wasn't lying to me about where he'd been or where he was going. So long since I'd looked forward to seeing someone instead of dreading their excuses and deceptions. Oliver kissed me goodnight, a gentle, sweet kiss that made me feel beautiful and wanted. As I watched him walk away, I realized I was smiling. Inside my flat, I made tea and settled into my window seat to think. 6 months ago, I was married to a man who was stealing from me and cheating on me. 3 months ago, I was planning my escape from a life built on lies. Today, I'd spent 8 hours with someone who made me remember what it felt like to be genuinely happy. My phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number, but I recognized the words. Zara, it's Trevor. I got a new phone. We need to talk. I know you're angry, but disappearing isn't the answer. I love you. I stared at the message for a long moment, then deleted it without responding. Trevor Wilson belonged to my past. He was part of the story of who I used to be, not who I was becoming. I turned off my phone and ran a bath. Tomorrow I would go to my job that I loved in my city that felt like home, and make plans for my next date with Oliver. Tomorrow evening I would call Rachel and tell her about my new life and how happy I was. Tomorrow I would continue being exactly who I was meant to be. Zara Thompson, Senior Marketing Director, London resident, and woman who had saved herself from a marriage that was never real. Trevor could keep the house, the lies, and Candace. I had something much better, a future that belonged entirely to me. As I settled into my bath with a glass of wine and a good book, I thought about the woman I'd been 6 months ago. She would be proud of the woman I'd become. She would be amazed by the life I'd built from nothing but courage and determination. She would be grateful that I'd finally learned the most important lesson of all. The only person you can really count on to save you is yourself. 6 months after landing in London, I was promoted to Director of International Marketing. The salary increase meant I could afford to buy my own flat, a beautiful 2-bedroom in Marylebone with original moldings and a view of Regent's Park. My first property purchase as a completely independent woman. Oliver helped me move in on a sunny Saturday morning in May. We'd been dating for 4 months and he was everything Trevor had never been. Honest, supportive, genuinely interested in my dreams and goals. He never made me wonder where he was or who he was with. He never canceled plans at the last minute for mysterious work emergencies. He never made me feel like I was competing for his attention. "This place is perfect for you," he said, setting down a box of books in what would become my home office. "It feels like you." "What does that mean?" I asked, laughing. "Elegant, confident, full of light," he said, kissing me softly. "Everything good." We spent the day arranging furniture and hanging art, and for the first time in years, I was creating a home that reflected only my tastes and preferences. No compromises with someone else's vision. No wondering if the man sharing the space was actually planning to leave it for someone else. That evening we hosted a housewarming party for my colleagues and new friends. My flat filled with laughter, good wine, and the kind of easy conversation I'd forgotten was possible. Rebecca gave a toast that made me cry happy tears. "To Zara," she said, raising her glass, "who proves that sometimes the best thing you can do is trust yourself enough to start over completely." As the party wound down and Oliver helped me clean up, my phone rang. An international number I didn't recognize. "Don't answer it," Oliver said gently. "Tonight is about celebrating your new home." But something made me curious. It had been weeks since Trevor's last attempt to contact me, and this number looked different. "Hello? Zara? It's Rachel. I'm calling from the police station." My blood went cold. "Are you okay? What happened?" "I'm fine, but you need to know. Trevor was arrested last night. Financial fraud, embezzlement from his company. Apparently he'd been stealing from client accounts to fund his lifestyle. His boss found out when a client complained about missing money." I sank onto my couch, Oliver immediately sitting beside me with concern in his eyes. "How much money?" I asked. "They're saying close to $500,000 over 3 years. The same pattern he used with your marriage, small amounts at first, then bigger and bigger thefts as he got more confident." $500,000. Trevor hadn't just been stealing from me, he'd been stealing from everyone. Clients who trusted him with their money. His employer who gave him responsibility and authority. His pattern of deception went far beyond his personal relationships. "There's more," Rachel continued. "Candace kicked him out when she found out about the arrest. Apparently, she didn't know where all his money was coming from, and when she realized he was a criminal, she wanted nothing to do with him. He's lost his job, his girlfriend, and probably going to prison. I should have felt satisfaction. Trevor's lies had finally caught up with him. His theft had been exposed. His double life had collapsed completely. Justice was being served. Instead, I felt nothing. No satisfaction, no vindication, no sense of victory. Just a mild interest in news about someone who used to be important to me but wasn't anymore." "Are you okay?" Rachel asked. "I thought you'd want to know." "I'm okay," I said, and realized it was completely true. "Actually, I'm better than okay. I'm happy." After I hung up, Oliver took my hand. "Bad news?" "My ex-husband was arrested for embezzlement," I said. "He's probably going to prison." Oliver studied my face. "How do you feel about that?" I thought about it carefully. How did I feel about Trevor Wilson's spectacular downfall? About the fact that his lies had finally been exposed to everyone who knew him? About the reality that Candace had abandoned him the moment his money dried up? "Grateful," I said finally. "Grateful that I got out before this happened. Grateful that I'm not there trying to support him through it or wondering if I should have seen the signs. Grateful that his problems aren't my problems anymore. That's very healthy, Oliver said, squeezing my hand. It shows how completely you've moved on. He was right. Trevor's arrest didn't feel like vindication because I didn't need vindication anymore. I'd already won by building a life so much better than the one I'd left behind. I'd won by discovering my own strength and independence. I'd won by creating genuine happiness instead of accepting fake contentment. Want to go for a walk in the park? Oliver asked. Clear your head after all that drama? Perfect, I said. We walked hand in hand through Regent's Park as the sun set over London. Couples were having picnics on the grass, children were playing by the pond, and the city hummed with the energy of millions of people living their lives. Real lives, authentic lives, lives built on truth instead of deception. I have something to tell you, Oliver said as we found a bench overlooking the rose garden. My heart skipped, but not with anxiety the way it would have with Trevor. With excitement. I love you, he said simply. I love your strength, your kindness, your incredible ability to create beauty wherever you go. I love that you chose to start over instead of settling for less than you deserved. I love that you trusted yourself enough to build the life you really wanted. Tears filled my eyes. Not sad tears, but overwhelmed with gratitude tears. I love you too, I said. I love that you make me feel safe and valued and understood. I love that you never make me wonder or worry or doubt myself. I love that loving you feels easy and natural and right. It should feel that way, he said, kissing me gently. Love shouldn't be hard work or constant stress. It should make your life better, not more complicated. What a revolutionary concept. Love that made life better instead of more stressful. Partnership that added value instead of creating problems. A relationship built on mutual respect and genuine affection instead of lies and manipulation. As we walked home through the London streets I'd come to love, I thought about the journey that had brought me here. The devastating discovery of Trevor's betrayal. The careful planning of my escape. The terrifying leap into an unknown future. The gradual building of a new life from nothing but hope and determination. Every step had been worth it. Every moment of uncertainty had led to this. A career I loved, a city that felt like home, friends who valued me, and a man who loved me for exactly who I was. My phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. Probably Trevor, trying to reach me from jail with some new excuse or explanation. Some plea for understanding or support during his legal troubles. I deleted the message without reading it. Whatever Trevor Wilson was going through now was a consequence of his own choices. I'd spent 5 years trying to support and understand him while he lied to me and stole from me. I wouldn't spend another minute of my life cleaning up his messes. Everything okay? Oliver asked. Everything's perfect, I said, turning off my phone completely. Absolutely perfect. Because it was. Not perfect in the fake Instagram-ready way that my marriage to Trevor had appeared to outsiders. Perfect in the real, genuine way that comes from building a life based on honesty, courage, and self-respect. I'd wanted revenge on Trevor Wilson for destroying our marriage. But the best revenge turned out to be something he could never touch or take away. My own happiness, built by my own hands in a life entirely my own. Trevor could have his prison cell, his legal troubles, and his regrets. I had London, Oliver, and a future full of possibilities. I'd definitely gotten the better deal.